company's there for a long duration of time, that eliminates that cost. So it helps with the overall productivity of the company. When you constantly have people coming in and out of your company, it's really hard for someone to transition into that role, because you do have the training, you do have the development, and you also have just them adjusting to the company environment and adjusting to their role. So it takes them a while to kind of, excel in that role. So then it also helps build relationships within the company. So when you have people in your company for a long duration of time, this helps them kind of grow that communication and that relationship between each other, than compared to when you have people always coming in and out. They're not really going to have that relationship to really build the trust. So it also helps your company image. If you're having people constantly coming in and out of your company, it's going to look, someone's going to leave with a negative taste in their mouth. Social media is huge in today's society, so they're going to write negative reviews on Facebook, Glassdoor, really any social media site, and that's just negative feedback your company's going to have that it doesn't need to. So it also, retention is important for a company because it retains your A players.
Is that my man's dad?
Yes, it is. This is important because if you're not retaining your A players, your company's not growing. These are the people with the innovative ideas that are going to give you guys the extra push in order to excel against your competitors.
Have you seen him sing the Disney song?
I did, with his daughter. So a quote to kind of tie this all in is, satisfaction is rating, loyalty is a brand. When you have loyalty with your employees, your employees have loyalties amongst each other, and they have loyalty within themselves, your company is going to grow, it's going to develop into a brand, and you're going to excel. So team building and retention, I'm going to go into this exactly as Nicole talked about, some of the key positive benefits to team building. I'm going to develop and tell you how those roles really bring in retention along with your company. So it unifies different minds. When you have different people working in a team building activity, they have a different intake on that project that you have them doing. So they are able to learn from each other based off that project, and they're going to be able to incorporate that in future projects you're going to have within your company. So when they're able to think differently and work with each other, they're learning. They're going to stay with your company. Overall, this is pretty essential, self-explanatory, but you have happy employees. When you're doing team building and you're developing those engaging activities for your employees, they're ultimately going to end up being more comfortable in your work environment, which I'm going to get to in a little bit. But when they're comfortable, they're going to be happy. When they're happy, they're going to want to stay. So that brings me into a comfortable environment, as I just mentioned, and how it's going to develop into less conflict. When you have your employees learning how to communicate with each other, this is going to help when conflicts do arise. When they're able to communicate with each other, they're going to solve the problem a lot quicker than when they do have to come to upper management. When they come to upper management, the conflict can be a little larger and harder to deal with from that point. So team building can create incentives for employees. This is key because when you do have fun events, as we mentioned, this gives your employees something to look forward to. When they do have a big trip coming up or just anything interacting that's going to, ease up their workday a little bit, they're going to have more motivation, they're going to produce better results, and they're going to be happier. And ultimately, the goal for team building is to build trust. So when you build trust with your employees and they build trust within themselves, they're going to work so much better together. When your team's working together and not just by themselves, they're going to produce better results. You guys are going to excel. So when you have that trust, that is key in any growth. So it develops leadership employees. I think this is personally one of my key things I think is important, because when they're able to communicate with each other, they're going to share ideas. They're going to develop those leadership skills. When they develop leadership skills in those activities, they translate that into the office. When they're producing those ideas, they're going to be able to move up to management sooner or promote sooner, and they're going to stay with your company because they're moving up. And then communication. I think I mentioned maybe this word in half of my presentation. But when you have strong communication, you have a strong team. When you have a strong team, people don't leave that strong team. People stay with your strong team. They build, they grow. Team building and millennials, this is something really interesting. Team environment, according to Forbes, is the main things millennials look for when they go into the workforce. So when you do have those volunteer team interactions and those activities, you're building that environment that's going to help open the totem pole for incoming employees. This is ultimately going to help you grow. And then an example of this, I'm a server at Olive Garden. We recently lost a lot of our old employees we're bringing in new employees, none of them are staying, the team doesn't work together, the wait's a lot longer, overall people are leaving a lot quicker, no one's happy in our environment, and it's because we lost so many people and we're not retaining our current staff. So just to recap exactly why team building is so important is because retention is a key to any company's success. So in order to have retention, you need to have your employees happy, you have to have them growing, you have to have them engaged, and you need to have great, strong communication. You need to build that trust, you need to build that loyalty, and that's exactly what you can gain with team building. And how this relates to me, I recently just accepted my full-time position for the end of the summer as a senior human resource assistant at Amazon. Team building is really key in that environment, so towards the end of the summer I'm going to have a lot of training, a lot of team building, and develop with the team. So now I'm going to pass it off to Kinjal to talk about the aspects of successful team building.
Hello everyone, my name is Kinjal and I'm going to talk about the aspects of successful team building. I'm also going to go over some tips on how to create successful team building activities. So a company can really benefit from this, from implementing effective team building. So it takes great leadership to build great teams. Companies need to know how to build these long-lasting teams. This is why most managers think this is a very difficult thing to do. So evaluating the sustainability of teams has a real impact on an organization. So I'm going to go over the 6 ways successful teams are built to last. So the first thing is to be aware of how you work. As a leader of the team, you must be extremely aware of your leadership styles and techniques. Are they as effective as you think? And how well are they accepted by the team you're attempting to lead? You need to evaluate yourself and also be critical about what you can improve. So next off, you need to get to know the rest of the team. To do this, it's like basically holding yourself accountable for your actions to maximize performance and results. Fully knowing your team means that you have invested time to understand how they are wired to think and also what is required to motivate them. After this step, you can clearly define their roles and responsibilities of those on your team. Your team members' responsibilities must be interconnected with one another. You need to evaluate people not only on their ability to play a particular role, but on whether or not they fit into workplace culture and if they will be a team player. So the next thing is be proactive with feedback. Feedback is the key to assuring any team is staying on track, but more importantly, that it is improving each day. Many leaders tend to wait until the problem occurs before they can give good feedback, so you need to allow proactive feedback to be your team's greatest enabler for continuous improvement. With proactive feedback comes acknowledging and rewarding. So people love recognition, but they are most appreciative of respect. So take the time to give your teammates the proper recognition they have earned and deserved. Being genuine in your respect goes a long way towards building loyalty and trust. It organically ignites extra effort. The next thing is to celebrate success. In today's fast-paced, rapidly changing world of work, people are not taking enough time to understand why they were successful and how their success is positive and impacted those around them. This is about taking a step back and reflecting on what you have accomplished and what you have learned throughout the journey. So according to the University of Central Florida's research, team building impacts outcomes across the board. If your goal is to have a more cohesive and productive workplace, it's worth investing time and resources to organize some team building events. So there are office workers who do not enjoy team building activities, but here are some helpful tips of successful team building activities. So first off, you want to schedule your activity during work hours. No matter how much people love their job, you do not want to spend time on the weekend to attend a mandatory work event. If you can schedule activity during the workday, even an hour or 2 on Friday is better than spending a weekend at work. So the next thing is consider volunteering work. So if there's a way to volunteer that benefits the community or local charity, people tend to feel good about spending their time doing something to help others. So volunteer project is a great way to get everyone involved and feeling good about themselves. You could serve a meal at a local shelter or a soup kitchen or organize a clothing drive. You also want to encourage collaboration and not competition. If there's a contest element, some employees will feel like they'll be focusing on winning instead of actually learning from the experience. Instead, you can choose an activity that encourages staff to work together and to solve a problem, instead of having someone win first place in a competition. So some people would love to play softball or run a relay race, a form of team building, but you want to keep in mind that your staff might not be up for that challenge. So, so those who don't like this will feel left out. It's important to consider physical conditions or health sensitivities to make sure that you can choose an appropriate activity. So sometimes just getting outside of the four walls of an office helps people interact with one another more freely. Even if you're doing a team building session, you can go outside, so it's different than being inside of a workplace, and it gives the impression that you're not really doing regular work while you're outside. But it's a lot more fun. You want to consider the weather too, because it'd be bad if it was raining and you're doing this. So the staff should know exactly what the intent of the team building activity is. Are you hoping to come up with a more efficient process, or do you want to do a better job of integrating new hires within the rest of the team? So employees may be more on board if they know why they are doing this activity and why it's taking place. So you want to set clear expectations. Within a couple of days of the event, reach out to all the participants to thank them for their time and ask them for proactive feedback. So this feedback can be really useful when it comes to planning your next group events. It could be something as simple as a survey, as Christina mentioned before, and it can be used to gather efficient feedback. Next, you also want to create a goal. So you want to create a goal so that your team can work towards it, and this could be taking a day off at the end of the quarter, flexibility in their work schedule, or a bonus. So you want to realize, just as your team members have different skills, they probably respond to different kinds of incentives. So you want to rotate through the incentives, or like you can provide or allow flexibility, and that's the key to incentives. Sorry. This past January, I had an interview with ARI, and one of the questions they asked before the interview on a paper was, if you were to pick a team building activity, what would it be? So I think it's great that ARI was asking the new employees what they want to see in team building, so it really shows the importance of how they value teams. So the answer I put down was escape rooms. So escape rooms are a physical adventure game in which players solve a series of puzzles and hints to complete an objective. So near my town, there's a place called Adventure Room Corporate, and this is a way to form a genuine collaborative relationship with fellow coworkers. It also helps team be more effective and productive in the workplace. So to conclude my part, team building really helps a corporation to create a successful and collaborative environment in the company. The importance of successful team building to a company is retaining their employees and also building communication. Now Haley will talk to you about how team building can go wrong and how to prevent it too.
Like Kendall said, my name is Haley, and I'm going to be talking to you about what not to do in team building and how to avoid liability as a company trying to promote team building with its employees. So what not to do, like we talked about before, there's a lot of things that you want to do to promote great team strength and how to get your employees to relate and work better together. But there's also several things that you want to avoid that could frustrate employees and all hinder their ability to bond and work well together. So the first thing you really want to avoid is peer pressure. I have this phrase up here that says challenge by choice. I love this phrase, and I think it is a great example for team building. You don't want to pressure your employees or your teammates or anyone into doing something that they don't want to do, while getting them out of their comfort zone could really encourage them to bond with the team. It could also make it a traumatic experience for them. It could make them very uncomfortable. You also want to avoid cliques. I'm sure a lot of you know the person you're sitting next to, so if we pair it off, chances are if you guys talk to each other to get to know each other, you probably would know a lot and you wouldn't get to bond with the rest of the class. So another thing you want to avoid is childish activities. This would make people get bored really quickly. You want to know your audience, know the people you're trying to get to bond together, what kind of activity is going to be best for them. If it's too easy, they're going to get bored, they're not going to want to do it, and they might be insulted that you picked this activity for them. Another thing you want to avoid would be overly complex puzzles. This could lead to your employees or your teammates getting very frustrated, getting annoyed, getting mad at you for setting up this activity, and all in all, it would make it a bad experience for them. They might get angry with each other. You also want to avoid unhealthy competition. I'm sure in gym class we've all encountered someone who takes the game way too seriously. It gets mad at us if we're not as good as them and kind of ruins the experience for everyone. This could happen in team building if you're doing competition, putting employees or peers against each other. They might start a fight and it would be really unhealthy. You also want to avoid not rewarding performance. Like Kinshal talked about, something you could even reward people with is just respect. It doesn't need to be a gift card or time off, because that could also encourage unhealthy competition. It could make people angry if they don't